It's strange how the most dangerous things in our lives rarely announce themselves. They don't arrive with warnings or alarms. They usually slip in quietly, disguised as something familiar, even harmless. A group of friends, a shared interest, a reason to stay after school a little longer. At the time, it feels normal, even exciting, like you found a place where you finally belong. But some experiences only reveal their true nature once you're far enough away to look back. Details that once felt insignificant begin to line up. Small moments you laughed off start to feel unsettling. And you realize that what you thought was just another phase was actually the beginning of something that was slowly spiraling out of control. This story is about one of those moments put on 4chan. The kind you don't recognize is dangerous until it's already over. Hi X, I've been lurking here for about 3 years now, but never contributed with anything, despite having this story that I'll share with you now. I didn't share it before because I still didn't know what to make of what happened. Now I want help with that. After a long time without seeing each other, I got together with some friends in a gathering at our old school. And upon hearing their own versions of these past events, I started to doubt that all of it was just coincidence, like I used to believe. English is not my main language, so I apologize in advance for any ridiculous writing mistakes. I will be answering questions, as long as they don't ask for identities, which I want to preserve. Also, this is fairly long since it's difficult to really grasp the bizarreness of situation without a certain level of backstory. I apologize in advance for that. Mind you that this really happened, so it's not really shocking or paranormal by any means. I think it's worth sharing because it may not be supernatural, but it's really creepy. At least for me, anyway. I've read many creepypastas before, and I really like that format, so that's what I'll go with. This is the story of how I got involved in a dangerous game called Extreme Challenges. Many years ago, I was a student at a technical high school. My best year as a student there was definitely the third year. The course lasted 4 years. Because of how much fun I had with this particular group of people that I only met on that very same year. I met them really by chance, since I was never very talkative or outgoing. It all started at the beginning of the term. I was awarded a 2-day trip with other students who had performed exceptionally at the scientific fair in the last term of the previous year. I was a second year during this fair. I was a student at the electronics branch and made a lantern that would grow brighter or dimmer depending on the frequency of the whistling of the user. It didn't really work properly, as you who understand about frequency varistors know. But the concept was interesting. I think that's why I was one of the winners. Anyway, that's when I met the person who would later become my best friend, and who I have not seen in years. I will use our nicknames for the purpose of identity protection. His friends and I called him Zach. Zach was a 4th year from the biology branch. We sat together at the bus for the trip and started talking about all sorts of crazy shit. Like what existed before the universe expanded, and spirituality and things like that. He really liked paleontology and knew a bunch of shit about dinosaurs and the ages of the earth, like technical names and shit, and said he was addicted to Jurassic Park and watched it once a week. He was a very peculiar person, The kind that you know thinks unusually just by looking at their faces. I don't know how to explain, but that's the impression I got. He was the first person I ever met who didn't discriminate others' opinions. That's what caught my attention the most, I think. He would listen to what I had to say with as much attention as I would listen to him. We really clicked in that sense. There were many crazy shenanigans we did during that trip, but they are not relevant to the story. The point is, those 2 days were all we needed to get really close to each other. After that, it was the beginning of the semester, and we would talk every day at lunch break. I was laboratory monitor and would do some experiments with him at the main lab in the electronics building often. That's when he learned that I really liked fixing stuff like radios, clocks, old cassette players, this kind of simple device. He started bringing some of his stuff that was broken, and we would try to fix it together. Every time he came to see me at the laboratory after classes, he would stay with me some time, then go to the main library without really saying if he was going there to study, just read or whatever. Got to go see my people at the library. He would use this exact same sentence almost every time, I remember. I never knew who his people were until something like 3 weeks after we started hanging out. We were already what you might call friends at that time. We talked about our families, our lives in general, aspirations for the future, etc. I told him I wanted to work with satellite communication. That's not what I work with nowadays. And he told me he wanted to create a Jurassic theme park. I believed him because I still don't think he was saying that as a joke. So 3 weeks after our meeting, when we were already friends, he called me to go to the library after I finished my duty at the lab, so I could meet his people. I didn't really want it to be introduced to a bunch of people. I wasn't shy or anything, I just thought it was a pain in the arse. But he was persistent and said they needed my help with something, so I decided to go. I don't regret doing that at all. That was the reason why my 3rd year was so special. When I went to the main library, it was deserted, as usual. But his people weren't at the reading section. They were at the conference room, which held a lot of audio-visual apparatus meant for presentations, despite the campus having an auditorium exclusively built for that purpose. There I met these amazing figures who had all become a big part of my life. They called themselves the Cinema Club. The Cinema Club was a group of students from different classes and years who really liked movies and watched them together at the library conference room, with permission of course. They would discuss and suggest movies to each other all day long if you let them. And I mean literally all day long. They were really passionate about the seventh art, but that was the only thing they had in common. I think their personalities and traits are one of the ways to find out who did what in the game we played later on. So I'm going to summarize how they were from my perspective. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that I know exactly what kind of people they really were, even though we were close. Our nicknames, which I'll use here, were nicknames that they had given to each other. And it was a cinema club thing, so only they knew, not even their classroom colleagues. Zach, male, 4th year biology student, really good soccer player, and famous for not being afraid of anything. He would often capture big spiders, scorpions or whatever, and try to throw them at the girls regardless of their poisonous potential, saying that it was safe. He was brave, imprudent, creative, talkative and reliable. Tanaka, male, third-year biology student. Since he was Asian, they started calling him Tanaka, leader of the Yakuza, and he kind of liked how it sounded. He was one of the 2 official clowns of the group, always making jokes and bullying Harry and Nymph. He was also very lazy and didn't want to have any kind of work pushed on him. He was funny, outgoing, and liked eating junk food. He also liked models, especially fighter jets and Air Force-related things. Blondie female, 4th-year chemistry student. The nickname was because she was blonde, duh, and had blue eyes. She was really proportional and beautiful, and Darkness had a crush on her. She liked reading as much as she liked movies, and would try all the time to get us to read something. To me, she was elegant, mature, and organized, but strangely closed. She never really told anyone anything about her life, even though they were together for quite some time. Darkness, male, 4th-year electronics student, my upperclassman. He was called Darkness because he listened to black metal and dressed in black all the time. He was into occultism, voodoo, and this kind of thing. He had the aura of one of those guys you don't want to mess with, and was the tallest and strongest of all the guys in the club. Despite that, he was really level-headed. He was somewhat weird and very confident in a "I don't care what you think of me" way. He also listened to music in his iPod all the time. Nymph, female, 3rd-year chemistry student. The other clown. She was really short, 4 feet 11 inches, and had a fantastic rack. She was playful and childish and really flirtatious. Above all that, she had quite the foul mouth. She would spend all day making sex jokes, sex analogies, sex commentaries, and telling sex anecdotes. I think I don't need to explain the nickname. She was very witty, outgoing, feminine, and an undefeated champion at name-calling. Would often fight with Tanaka. Angel, female, 3rd-year electronics student. She was my classmate, but we never talked because she never talked to anyone. I never met a person as silent as her ever again in my life. Because of that, there's not really much I knew about her at the beginning, besides her passion for movies and for not talking. But that changed later on. She would usually just agree with anything anyone suggested, and seemed to really like everyone at the cinema club, since she would come to the meetings every day. Her nickname was Angel because she had a tattoo of an angel on her back, between her shoulder blades. I fell for her after something like 3 months, I think. Harry, male, 4th-year computer science student. He had a scar on the same place as Harry Potter and kinda looked like him, hence the nickname. He's the only person I ever met I can call a genius. The guy could multiply 2 4-digit numbers in his head in like 20 seconds. He had an incredible memory for images and just visual information in general. He liked to draw and was the most regular person of the club after me. Also, the top student of the institution. He was very kind, mature, thoughtful, and nice in general. That doesn't mean he was harmless, as I would later find out. Slave, female, 3rd-year industrial mechanics student. Slave was the slave of the club. Before I got in, she was the one who operated the audio-visual equipment at the library for the screenings. That's why she got the nickname. but she really did act like a slave, doing anything the group asked. When I got in, I started to operate the equipment, but her title didn't change. She was an oddball, hyperactive, and I personally found her hard to deal with in general. Sometimes she had difficulties expressing herself, but that was rare. Most of the time we could understand her just fine. Also, she was the oldest of us, 19. Monitor, male, third-year electronics student. This is me. I was a monitor, so they started calling me Monitor out of the blue, because my name is hard to pronounce. And it caught on. I was just the guy who would relieve Slave from her perils in the beginning. But the club seemed to like me as much as I liked them, and they invited me to be part of it. And so I became a member of the cinema club. At first I was called because they thought Slave had broken the DVD player. Zach said to everyone to calm the fuck down, because he had the man for the job. And so there was I, fixing something for a bunch of people I didn't even know. At first I recognized the situation as just Zach making use of a friend's skills, which didn't really bother me. But when the cinema club members started talking to me, I realized they were just like him. They were open-minded and not connected to the regular flow of adolescence expression used by Zach himself. They liked to think for themselves and didn't find television, sports, and this kind of things entertaining. What they did like very much was movies and adrenaline, and that's why they were there. I became friends with them pretty quickly and was nominated official cinema club member a short while later. We would spend our time mostly discussing movies, more than watching new titles. Usually the screenings were directed to me, because I never was really much into movies. So often something along these lines would happen. You never watched Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? No. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you, you vermin? And so someone would appear with a damn DVD the very next day, and we would watch it together, even though they all had already watched it. Actually, they seemed to derive some pleasure from showing me different movies, so no one ever really complained about me slowing them down or making them watch the same things again. This was standard, just another day at the office for the cinema club. But sometimes we just would not do anything movie related. Sometimes the club didn't even went to the library and instead gathered at some place else. This was rare, like once every 2 weeks, and it's something I never really understood, and still don't. These unusual gatherings happened at Zach's command so we could play another one of his extreme games. It was always out of nowhere, and no one would be against it. Now that I remember, it actually seemed like it was a special event that every member looked forward to. Zach's games were crazy daredevil stunts, or cards with some kind of penalty for the loser. Severe penalties. It seemed like they liked to feel the rush of being in danger. Some penalties included painful punishment, like receiving a slap across the face or pulling out strings of hair. The emotion of playing for something, be it your own safety or the disgrace of others. We would laugh at the poor losers, me included of course, was the fuel for these games. Soon enough, I got used to it. In the end, it was just entertainment. People can derive happiness from doing literally anything, as long as accompanied by people you like and trust. I reached that conclusion and stopped thinking it was weird behavior. Like I said, I myself was open-minded and liked people who did not discriminate others for their preferences. I never liked black metal, for example, but even listened to it with darkness several times. One of the games that Zach invented was called Suicide Blackjack. It would go like this. We would all pick one card from the deck, and the game started by whoever chooses to go first. We sat together in a circle, and the first player would pull out a second card from the deck. Then we proceeded counterclockwise, everyone picking one card until they had two, then three. The point was that you could only stop above 15 points. If you hit 21, you could order any player to do something silly or dangerous or tricky. No sexual stuff allowed. But if you passed 21, you had to pay $1 to the next person to get 21. Getting an ace and jack of spades earned you not only the right to punish, but $1 from all players. We were worried about our wallets as much as our necks. I remember literally trembling in anticipation for the next draw. And that's why I get how they liked those games so much. It really was a rush, being at the mercy of chance. Zach and Nymph used to be more competitive just for the sake of winning, while Slave liked to make people suffer. Harry would usually try not to hurt anyone or be too demanding in his orders. Me, Angel, Tanaka, Darkness and Blondie would try to play really smart and use our right to command more for laughs than to punish. Everyone, especially Tanaka, was very interested in the money though. I assume he wanted to buy models with it. This is what the cinema club was about. But something special happened on the midterm break of that year, and it was Zach's new game, Extreme Challenges. Before I get to that, I want to share some stories that happened during this first semester of the year. By the time we left the first trimester behind and finished our tests and laboratory exercises, they were a pain in the ass, at my branch in particular. I was already in tune with the club, and as such, I participated in nearly all meetings. Because of my good attendance, I noticed that the undisputed champions of attendance were Angel and Slave. They both look like the kind of people who really have nothing better to do. Like Tanaka, just not lazy. I know, like I'm the one to talk. I think it's important to consider that we all had our own little words apart from the club. I had the other lab monitors, who would often meet at the computer science building to play Age of Empires 2, and used to run a research group. Small, and we never did anything worth. Harry and Blondie were really popular, and we could see them all the time organising events, sports and academicals. They also had a ton of friends and would spend time with them. Same as Nymph, who would always be surrounded by other girls to whom she was some kind of god. We used to joke about that, and she said she thinks the girls just found her really cool for some reason. Tanaka simply skipped school a lot, so he missed some cinema club meetings, and Darkness would just disappear from the school altogether, even when I saw him in the mornings. I think he used to jump the gate to go home early when the security people got distracted. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that the cinema club didn't really talk to each other outside of our meetings. I know I talked with Zach, Darkness and Angel outside of the group, and I also know that Harry and Blondie talked a lot. Darkness stalked Blondie a lot. Slave and Zach did some crazy shit together, like shouting curses in the middle of the inner garden of the main building. And Tanaka and Nymph had a lot of friends in common for some reason, so they often got together with these people. I still think this was very strange. From my part, I would talk to any one of them at any given time they were nearby. But some of them just didn't even look at each other's faces. even though everyone was so united during club meetings. To this day, I have no explanation for that, other than my assumption that Zach was the glue that held us all together. It was around this time that I got interested in Angel, and Zach figured it out immediately. He said things about helping me, but I always refused his help, saying, "Nah man, uncle, I'll figure it out myself." Of course, that was just me being scared of rejection. She laughed at me when I told her that long after graduation, we never got together. So these stories happened during this time, from the end of the first trimester to the end of the second. And I think they were the spark that later became an idea in Zach's mind. Zach's flooding the school plan. It was raining a lot during that season, and Zach proposed that everyone tried to flood the entrance to their respective buildings. This wasn't an easy task by far, and the first to achieve this would win $20 from everyone in the club. The only one who pulled this off, most of us didn't even try, I think, was Harry, with an evil master plan of claiming the pipes from the draining pit in front of the chemistry building appeared to be clogged. They weren't, which led to staff being sent to open that section, which led to flooding of the pit. Since it was raining hard, the entrance was flooded before the drainage truck could get there, and on top of that, people thought it happened because the pipes really were clogged. That's why Harry is not harmless. Darkness's Ouija board courage test. One of Darkness's neighbours killed himself by hanging after his wife left him. So he proposed we went to the place with an Ouija board and tried to talk to his spirit. The door was broken down by the police officers who found the body after the neighbourhood watch called them, reporting the strange silence of the place, and never was sealed back. I don't need to say we didn't enter in contact with anyone in the short 1 hour or so where we stayed there. We went there at 10 o'clock approximately. But we did learn that Nymph and Blondie were almost pissing themselves the entire time. So we started watching horror movies at our screenings just to bully them. Slaves' stealth screams game. As simple as it sounds, we had to make noise, not just vocal, as loud as possible without anyone finding out where it came from. Zach actually threw a heavy piece of machinery from the mechanics lab, a cog, and threw it above the cafeteria. Half the roof was acrylic fibre, and it rolled down, making a noise out of the depths of hell. I just remembered in one of those rainy days, a lightning struck a radio broadcasting tower near our school, and the reflection of its shine on the water that was accumulating in the parking lot blinded everyone for a second. It was lunch break. This was the day after we played Flooding the School. We did other stuff, but you can get the picture. We were basically vandals, and the staff at the school started getting really nervous and creating new rules for the students. Yes, it was our fault. Yes, we were assholes. But we didn't really care. That's the beauty of adolescence, I guess. After the first semester of that year, I was already a full-fledged member of the club. They said that the club was completing 2 years on that very mid-year pause. The founder of the club, apparently, was no other than Zach. Sports teams, research groups and clubs could still meet at the school grounds during vacation. All we had to do was go in our uniforms and let the supervisor know. Since our supervisor was really lazy, he never really cared what we did, so it was easy for us to make him sign our cinematographic vacation project, giving us free pass to an almost empty campus. We claimed we would make a short movie about the institution to put on the website. We never did. But what we really wanted was to screw around campus with a camera without anyone to stop us. My life had already taken an unexpected turn to the better by that time. I was never really a sociable person, but suddenly made that ton of friends, really good friends. And it was all thanks to Zach. I said to him that I really appreciated his friendship, and he always brushed it off and quoted Matrix. I didn't find you, you found me, with a grin on his face. Anyway, it was during the recess that he appeared with an idea for a new game, and he said it would be the best game ever, but only for those brave enough to follow through. This got everyone fired up, except for me. I never really liked the explicit vandalism part of the club, but since everyone was on it, I thought that nothing too dangerous would happen. Zach explained to us his idea. Each of us would invent his or her own pranks to play at the students, the teachers, or the school as whole. Only we ourselves would know our own stunts. We would write them down and trade among ourselves, then try to perform them. If you didn't succeed, you had to pay the ones who did a predetermined amount of money. We agreed $20. To be sure that the pranks had been carried by one of us, we agreed to put the paper with the prank in an urn used for voting that resided in the library conference room. Also, you only had to pay the person that did your prank. Zach called that game Extreme Challenges. I was a competitive person, I still am, and that's the only reason why I didn't back off of that. I mean, we were agreeing on doing vandalism acts just for kicks. I have no idea how people like Harry and Blondie would agree with something like that, or even Tanaka, considering there was potential to lose a lot of money, and he definitely wouldn't want that. Nonetheless, everyone agreed, and we started practicing during vacation. We would walk around the campus and take note of cool places to do our stupid pranks. Then go watch movies like usual and fool around using the video camera. It was Zach's. The pranks that weren't done would be recycled for the next round. Each round would last 1 week. So after a week, we would check the urn, read the pranks that were done. We would already know if they were done or not, of course. And the people whose pranks were on the urn would deposit $20, then close it. Later, the ones who performed the pranks would calmly visit the urn one by one and take their money. The secrecy of this process was really only up to ourselves, since it would be easy to try and see who did what. But because the confidentiality was more exciting, we never tried to find out. Long story short, I don't remember all of them, obviously. There were just too many after several weeks, but we really brought chaos upon the institution. Things also escalated quickly, the level of the pranks. When the second semester started, we were at war. Pranks I remember. 1. Put the country's flag on top of the emergency water supply tower. I did it. 2. Break the lock of the girls' locker room beside the pool. I paid $20 because I wrote this prank. 3. Graffiti on the student council's outer wall. Slave told me she did it at our recent meeting. 4. Blow fireworks inside the bathrooms beside the cafeteria. Angel told me she did it at our recent meeting. 5. Alter the price of one of the combos at the cafeteria's menu. Someone did it. I paid $20. 6. Stealthily put an "See You in Hell" giant poster on the main building signboard, occupying the whole signboard. 7. Throw a trash bag from one of the third-floor classrooms in the ceiling of the cafeteria. 8. Put jokes about Professor X's nickname on all signboards on campus. I did it. 9. Graffiti any of the windows of the main building. 10. Hide the swimming pool's gate key. 11. Flood the gymnasium's women's bathroom. This happened in the span of like 2 months after the vacation. Usually 2 pranks were performed per week. The 2 papers for them would be deposited in secret on the urn. Money would be deposited and then disappear. The perpetrators would take the money. Since no one ever complained, "Hey, someone took money for the prank I played," we knew everything was working perfectly. No one knew who was writing what, who was doing what, or who was paying what. During this time, we still met regularly to watch movies after classes, like nothing unusual was happening. School administration was panicking, and I'm talking about sheer bloody panic. They would make regular announcements on the school's broadcasting system, and the mysterious vandal was the talk of the campus. Since we know very well just how screwed we would be if anyone found anything out, we started taking good care of the urn on the library's conference room, which was all the proof against us anyone would ever need. After these 2 months, Zach proposed we invented some absurd stuff so that winning the money would be much more satisfactory. Since no one actually thought that someone would do things that were really absurd, we agreed, just to see the shocked faces of the people who got our ridiculous demands. After this change of rules, I got stealing the car keys of one of the teachers. Like hell I would try something like that. Too risky. I knew I would not get my $20 that week, but I was sure I wouldn't pay it either, because my prank was breaking the AC at one of the main building's classes. I paid $20, of course, because one of those crazy bastards actually did this. And that was not the only thing that was done. I really underestimated them. Pranks that I remember after the change. 1. Flat one tire of any teacher's car. Blondie told me she did this. 2. Break any of the windows of one of the main building's classrooms. 3. Stealing car keys. I got it. Didn't do it. 4. Breaking the AC. I wrote it. Had to pay. 5. Forced blackout by any means necessary. Someone shorted the main building's circuit breakers. Everyone thought it was either me, Angel, or Darkness because of our knowledge in the area. There were others not as remarkable, but still difficult. As you can see, this is some seriously messed up shit. It's not like we were actually doing it for the money. It was for the thrill. During our meetings, everyone would get excited and say things like, "Who the hell did this shit? You guys are crazy!" Followed by laughs, and then our regular activities. When this second part of the extreme challenges with really extreme pranks began, Zach said that since many of them were already 4th years, we would not have much longer together, so we should make the most of it. We started meeting daily and going out to play games more often. We would play the King of Fighters 98 at the Flip near campus. Darkness and Slave were unbeatable. This whole "we don't have much time" thing really got to us, and I think this marks the decline of the cinema club as a whole. There were 3 events, apart from this whole time thing, that really changed everything. The first was Harry's parents divorcing. He changed a lot. He smiled more than all of us and was always thoughtful about everything like birthdays and our mood swings and shit. After this, he got distant compared to how he was before. The second was Slave's car accident. Her mother, who was driving, survived, and so did she. broke a clavicle, some ribs, and had a shoulder problem. But the man and the 2 kids on the other car died. This really got to her. The third and most important in my opinion, even though the other 2 may seem much more critical, was Darkness confessing to Blondie and asking her out. He was shot down immediately, and according to Harry, he got angry and asked her to explain why she wouldn't go out with him. Apparently she said that they didn't really had anything in common and refused to explain any further. When I met with Blondie recently, at our meeting, I didn't ask about it. All of this, as if someone had opened the floodgates suddenly, happened in October, I think. End of October, beginning of November. Something like this. Extreme Challenges entered its final stage at that time. We wrote new extreme pranks, scrambled them, distributed and opened them. I don't remember which one I got. The following week, a cat that used to hang around the chemistry building was found dead with his head severely injured, as if hit by a heavy object. We thought that it was just run over by one of the school's vehicles or something. Unfortunately, when we checked the urn the next day during our meeting, there was a paper inside, and it read, "Killing the cat at the chemistry building," or something along these lines. Tanaka freaked out when he saw it, and explicitly stated that if the game was going to take a turn to the gruesome, he was out. He demanded that the person who wrote the prank and the person that performed it appeared and explained what the hell was that. But no one stepped forward. Asking to see if we had our prank papers with us was futile, since the perpetrator could just invent a prank. And the writer, of course, would agree, yeah, I wrote this one. So everything would add up in the end. An unwritten rule of the Extreme Challenges game was that no challenge could ever target the cinema club or its members. No one even had to say that, and no one brought it up. But Tanaka was really pissed. He said something like, "How am I supposed to trust that you guys are not going to put a rat trap inside my bag?" And this got everyone stirred up, with those classic lines like, "If you don't trust us, we can't trust you," and blah, blah, blah. We left that meeting with a bad taste on our mouths. Slave, Zach, and Darkness were really pissed at Tanaka. I also wanted to voice my opinion, but decided to wait for everything to settle down first. Since I very much doubted, at that time, that Zach wouldn't be behind something like that, I didn't talk about it with him either. Instead, I went to Angel. I said to her that I wasn't satisfied with that turn of events, and that we should propose that the game ended before things got out of hand. Like I said, Angel was very silent, but she wasn't mute, and she was very eloquent. When I voiced my opinion, she answered me something along these lines. "Before things get out of hand? Things are already out of hand, and I don't want to argue with someone who smashes cats' heads open for $20. Neither do you, I suppose." She was right. I was scared, and she was too. Tanaka probably felt the exact same uneasiness we were feeling. There was something very dangerous already going on, and Tanaka had already painted a target on his own forehead with his tantrum. A few days after this, Tanaka was participating at the school's theatre week that had games involving all classes and plays at the auditorium. During the egg on the spoon race, in which the participants had their hands tied to their backs, he fell face first on the ground and broke all his front teeth. I used to think this was a coincidence, but like I said, I don't think that anymore. Zach was participating in the preparation for that event. Harry was coordinating it, and Blondie was supervising it. Slave was one of the contenders. It may sound paranoid considering Tanaka himself thought it was an accident, but that was just too convenient now that I think about it. During the theatre week, our game was still on, and the auditorium was raided by a chemical attack. Those of you who know the dangers of ammonia may understand how unpleasant it was. A good quantity of it was sprayed at the backstage, and the smell made it impossible to do anything in there. The windows were opened and the building was emptied. 2 girls were sent to the infirmary. 1 guy passed out cold. As expected, our urn was checked and a cancel the second day of presentations was there. At this point, it didn't really matter if we said someone from the chemistry building would do this, because that was probably what the perpetrator wanted us to think. Again, we didn't even know if the guy was paid, who did it, or who wrote the challenge. Zach was adamant about keeping the game running, saying, "I wonder what sort of crazy shit will happen next. You guys are scaring the shit out of me. This is awesome," etc. With our finals approaching, everyone started to visit the club less. Of course, for Zach, Darkness, Harry, and Blondie, it was their last years. They had graduation exams which were a little more practical and more difficult. I was also spending much more time at the lab, studying for my own tests and helping electronics students with our worst class, circuit analysis. So there I was, doing my job as always, when I was called by my supervisor to the electronics building staff room. When I got there were several police officers there, and they said they wanted to ask me a few questions about the incident that had occurred at the microprocessing lab. The old computers had been destroyed. It was funny because every electronics student complained about how old those computers were and how we wanted new ones. At that time, I had no idea, despite everything that happened, that when I finally got to one of our last meetings a few days later, we would see a paper in the urn saying, "Get rid of the old computers at the electronics building." Now the police was involved, and I got nervous as hell. I mean, it's the police. What if they actually find out who did this shit? It had to be someone of the cinema club. So at this meeting, I finally said that we should stop, and that I was going to leave the group if we didn't. Funny thing is that everyone except Blondie and Angel were actually defending it. Even Tanaka said something like, "Let these freaks do whatever they want, don't worry too much about it." I gave up and said that I was out of the club. Angel quit with me. No, it wasn't for my sake or anything. I think she would have quit anyway, and we stopped talking to each other for the rest of that year. We were already at the last week of November, I think, beginning of December. It was a shitty way of ending my relationship with them, but I planned on talking to them one by one at graduation, and just wish them the best and say that I was still their friend. I was going home 2 days or something after I left the club, and 2 thugs mugged me. They were wearing dark clothes and hoodies. I'm sure they weren't any of the guys from the club though, and beat the shit out of me for like 15 seconds. After that, my father bought me a pepper spray can. I don't know if something similar happened to Angel, but she stopped coming to class, missed tests, and had to do a lot of dependencies, retests, in December. In the end of the year, the following things happened, but I don't know if they were due to the cinema club or not. 1. All tyres of one of the teachers' cars were flat. 2. Infirmary's medicine stolen. 3. Lots of insects and a rat were found at the cafeteria. 4. Gymnasium retractable roof or solar roof was broken by a brick. 5. Many people injured by drainage pits. Their lids were put slightly off. If you stepped on it, you would fall. One of the students broke his leg. The cherry on top of the cake, though, was after the tests. The veterans who were graduating would all jump in the pool on the last Friday of the term, right after classes. This was allowed, traditional, and regulated by the school. But that year it was cancelled because of everything that had happened during that second semester. The veterans were pissed and said they would do it anyway, since they didn't plan on doing anything wrong. Just keep the tradition alive. Even without permission, that's exactly what happened. The veterans just ran around the campus in their swimming gear and would pick the occasional sophomore and throw at the pool too. The school couldn't really punish them later on, so they decided to let it slide. That day, someone drowned after using the 5-meter platform plank. It wasn't fixed on the regulator's pin, and landing face flat on the water. I don't know exactly what happened, but people said they thought she was just joking, pretending to be dead. There was no struggling. She just floated face down on the pool. Zach, last time we talked to each other, said that sabotaging the pool's planks was one of our oldest pranks that was never done. He said he wrote it and never knew who got it. I talked with everyone one last time after these events, but didn't mention anything about my attack or Angel's absences, or the new extreme challenges that were performed after I quit. Zach never appeared at graduation ceremony, never said goodbye, and I never heard from him again. Darkness failed his exams and dropped out. Only heard of him again the next year. Blondie went straight to college with recommendation, and so did Harry. Only at the beginning of the next year, my 4th year, I talked again with Angel, Slave, Nymph and Tanaka, and we started to go watch movies together at Nymph's house. The cinema club didn't exist anymore though. We never talked about what happened the year before. We just would hang out and talk about trivial things like usual. At the end of February, the last prank happened on campus. The graduation plates for the year before, that were made of resin, were sprayed with something corrosive. It didn't really melt anything, and just focused on the names, but made them blurry and almost impossible to read, which I think was the whole point. After this, my entire 4th year went without anything out of the ordinary, except for Darkness being arrested for assaulting a minor. Tanaka found the article in the newspaper. He claimed that it was Zach's fault and that he didn't do anything. He didn't use Zach's nickname, but his real name. From that time until now, I never saw him, Zach, or Harry again. Well, to me, this story does sound like something that could have happened in real life. But I doubt the legitimacy of this since it doesn't have any evidence and such. However, this is more probable to have happened than any of the so-called real paranormal stuff on the internet. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments section. Support me on Patreon and subscribe to get more stories like this. Until then, stay safe.